Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today in the hardwood department. Actually, we're currently positioned in the area rug department showing you hardwood. We're going to talk a little bit today about surface texture and how you can sell that when you're working with a customer and have it work out that it is a plus with a customer and have a wood product fit their application best. So the first product we're going to look at here is the Baldwin Hills series. Baldwin Hills is a European oak. This is color Crenshaw, and European oak has a lot of knots and mineral streaks that are not typically found in a North American red oak, so it's important to note that as we move along through all these sessions that we talk about variation, and these types of knots are something you see in European oak. So the treatment done to this product to give it texture, and this product falls under the textured engineer category, is a wire brushing technique. The wire brushing technique is done using a 4-foot cylinder with wires attached to it, and that brush follows through and sweeps along all the planks, sweeping out all the softest parts of the planks. It's referred to as the soft cell part of the wood. So where that usually lies is within the grain pattern itself. So you'll be able to see when you look at the Baldwin Hills series or anything that has wire brushing that wood has been swept out. When you do that, you're actually removing the softest parts of this wood and you're leaving only the hardest parts, rendering this product a little bit more durable and a little bit more impact resistant than if it was a completely filled face. When you have a fill face, which we'll review in a moment, you're filling in all the softest parts. So when I'm walking on that and in my everyday life, I can easily dent that by walking on it with, let's say, a high heel, or maybe your dog is heavy. Those are going to be the areas where you typically see little dimples or indentations faster when you don't have the treatment of wire brushing done. That's one example. Another example on the textured solid wall that we just launched is the Yosemite series. It's a 3/4 inch by 5 inch European oak solid, which we don't have any of on the wall outside of this. Actually, this is one of the first I've seen, or we've seen as a department, so very unique in that front. But you can again see the treatment done to this. This falls on the textured solid wall, but really the texture is achieved by wire brushing. So again, they're just sweeping out all the softest parts of that wood. Another product from the textured engineer wall, and this one has a heavier texture because this actually is not wire brushed. This is hand scraped and actually done by hand. So you'll have different versions of a hand scrape product, wherein some are done by a machine and some are done by hand. And this happens to be one that's done by hand. So what you're going to see when you have a product that's done by hand is every plank is unique unto itself, where you don't have an obvious mechanical scrape. Here you could see some of the chatter marks that are produced with a chain or with a hammer, and those are adding character to the floor. So when you add character to a floor, you are making it less likely for wear and tear to be seen over the life of the floor. When you have a completely smooth face to a floor, you're going to see a lot more wear and tear more quickly because it's more pristine, flat, smooth, and it's really hard to hide those imperfections. Some people will tell you they don't really care for this scrape, and there's a type of customer, this is a very casual look to it. You certainly want to put this in an area that's more contemporary, modern, as that's probably not going to achieve the look the customer wants in their home with the type of decor they have. Another sample we have here, this is from the textured solid wall, the Bridge Creek series. So Bridge Creek is an oak floor, and anytime you see oak, we've noted this before, that just means that it's a combination of white oak and red oak. There's no percentages, but they're using both of those species to accomplish the overall visual. This is, again, the Bridge Creek series here is wire brushed, and the treatment they've done to this is they've actually wire brushed this, and then they've gone behind it with a second stain. So unlike the Baldwin Hills up here, where this is pretty much just one stain that's been applied, and you can see there's really no tonal contrast between the grain and the top of the wood, Here you could see a true contrast because they filled it in with almost what is like an espresso type stain, which can be referred to as cerusing. It's a big word to throw around, but that's kind of the technique that's done. And then they've also done a French bleed on the product itself. That helps to accentuate plank to plank. If this was a flat floor, it would look just the same if they did the cerusing, but here again, you're getting the durability that comes along with the texture that's been applied with wire brushing on the surface. So a more standard type of texture on a hardwood, this is hickory natural, and in its natural form you are going to see a lot of mineral streaks, a lot of partially filled knots, and overall characteristics such as this here that surround the knot that really are going to be prominent throughout the entire floor. So if you look at this sample, a customer might really focus in on these bottom two boards, but realistically the top plank is showing you the knot, and that's what we need to convey to the customers. You're going to be able to see that throughout the whole floor, not just, you know, parts of the floor. Back to the texture. So this is just what is referred to as an unfilled face, meaning the floor is not completely smooth. So if I put this down, it almost looks as though it may have been wire brushed, but you could tell by looking at certain parts of the grain that it's completely smooth still. So it has not been wire brushed. And the way they achieve an unfilled face is they basically put this through the sanding panel, and instead of filling it in with an overfill of urethane, they put a very light coat of urethane to help you know, give it this lower luster, more natural look with the open grain. So it doesn't really have the same effect as sweeping out the soft cells with the wire brushing, but it does give it a very unique visual. You know, adds a little bit of depth and character to it that would otherwise not be able to achieve if you filled the whole surface with urethane. The last surface texture that we're going to talk to, you know, for a more, what we'll call it for a customer that would be a more modern or more contemporary customer, and this walnut here from the same Georgetown species. This is a natural color for the walnut. If it isn't, it has a slight tan in this slight tint called tan, which is noted here. But realistically, walnut in a natural state looks a whole lot like this. So for a customer that wants clean, sleek, modern, they're going to want something that's smooth most likely. And for texture, this really has none. So all those great things that we talked about starting out with the Baldwin Hills and the back up till now, is the texture is really going to help in an active lifestyle, in an active household with, you know, a full family, kids, pets. You entertain a lot on holidays and you have people over often. The texture and flooring is really going to help mitigate all the denting and scratching that occurs, or at least hide it, because in most cases you have the lower gloss level in addition to the texture that's on there. So that really helps reduce the amount of scratching and denting you would see. In this case, any scratches and dents that happen to this floor are going to scream at you and say, look at me, I'm right here. There's really no way to hide it because you have a completely filled, smooth face. There's no ticking, no wire brushing, no unfilled face to hide it. So every floor has an application. It's just really important that you have the upfront discussion with your customer, ask them about what they don't like about their current floor and what they want to see in their future floor, and just try and bridge that gap and shrink down the options to help them pick out a floor that's going to be best for their home.